Net present value, or NPV, and internal rate of return, or IRR, are functions that allow us to evaluate the value or the return of a series of cash flows. Let's start with the net present value function. To do this, I'm going to hit equal sign and my NPV and open a parenthesis. The first thing it wants is a rate. In this case, this is a required rate of return that is established as we think about our investment. For this sample, I've chosen 10%, so I'll click on that and hit comma. The next thing that NPV needs is the values of this series of cash flows. However, it is very important to skip year 0, so I'm going to start with year 1, which is what net present value is expecting, and select the range all the way through the end of my series. And now I'll close my parenthesis. The last thing I want to do is add the value of year 0. So I'll add a plus sign and then click on year 0. I'll go ahead and hit enter, and you'll see that the net present value is a positive number, which would be good if we're evaluating some kind of investment. Let's also get our internal rate of return. So I'll click here and type into the cell equal to IRR, open a parenthesis, and in this case I'm going to select the entire range. So year 0 through year 5, and close my parentheses. Super easy formula. I'll hit enter, and now I can see my internal rate of return. There's an interesting thing that's going on here, which is that if my internal rate of return is larger than my required rate of return, my net present value, which is actually just the present value of the cash flows that exceeds my required rate of return, will be positive. So if I change my required rate of return to 12%, notice that the internal rate of return on this series of cash flows is less than 12%, which means my net present value will change to a negative number. Let's hit enter and see that. And now you can see that the net present value is negative if my required rate of return is larger than the internal rate of return. Let's go back to 10%, and if the required rate of return was even smaller, let's say 8%, then my net present value would be larger because more cash that's coming in is going to exceed that level that says, here's the minimum return I want. Here are my formulas. First, the net present value, and then the internal rate of return.